everybody, welcome back to my workshop and welcome back to my garage. This is going to be episode 13 of my Elysium Phoenix build, and what we're going to be doing in today's video is we're going to be getting the level sand done, we're going to get the polish on the body done, and we're also going to get the frets level crowned and polished. I'd just like to pause right here for a moment and just say, if you like what I'm doing, please click like, click subscribe, follow along with the channel, see what I've got going on. It really helps out. And also leave a comment below. So I do answer every comment that I get, positive or negative. Hopefully there's not a lot of negative comments. I really appreciate the positive ones. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get rolling on this guitar and see what we've got in this video. So the clear coat's on and cured. I used a 2K clear coat on this. So now it's ready to do the wet sand on it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go progressively through the grits. I'm going to start out with 600 grit, and then we're going to go to 800, 1000, and probably up to 1200 as we go through this. This is a long process, so I'm not going to film everything about it, but I will show you how I get it started, and we'll go from there. So basically what I've got is I've got some 600 grit wet dry paper that I've gotten just a little in some water with some soap in it, just to give it a little bit of lubricant. I use a rubber eraser. Just kind of like a sanding block, and I just do a little bit of the guitar at a time. You want to be careful around the edges because that's where your finish is going to be the thinnest and it's going to be the easiest to burn through there. So you just want to take care in that spot around the edges. Don't dwell on those a whole lot. And you'll notice as you go through the sanding on this that it's just going to dull up a little bit, and that's telling you that you're knocking off the top of the finish. And what your aim is to just switch grits as you go along. As that dullness gets to the point where the spots are smaller, then that means that you're getting closer to that. The shiny spots after you've sanded means that you haven't quite got down to the bottom of it yet, because those shiny spots are where you haven't sanded. So it helps to have a good light with this when you're doing this on it. And like I said, don't dwell near the edges a whole lot. You want to be careful around the edges, and that includes the edge of the pickup rings or the pickup cavities, the roundovers on the guitar itself, around any of the holes. One thing that you can do that helps prevent that is to chamfer the holes a little bit, to put a little bit of a chamfer on it. That way, as the finish goes on, it's more of a curve than it is an abrupt corner. So what I'll do is I'll use 600 grit until I get comfortable with the way it's taking it down. And then as it gets closer and as the shiny spots get smaller, then I'll switch to 800, take it down, and as they get a little bit smaller, I'll switch to 1000 grit, and so on, all the way through as I do the guitar. You can see where it's dull in the top surface, and then you can see the shiny spots popping in there. Don't know if it's just coming out well on camera. I can see it here, but that's telling me that I'm getting down through the finish, and then I'm getting close. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this off camera. This has been wet sanded now to 1500 grit. It's ready for polish. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Oxford polishing compound. Because I did sand it down to 1500, I'm going to start with medium, and then I'll follow up with fine, and then I'll hit it with some swirl remover at the end. So I'm going to do the polishing on this by hand. It's not difficult. It's a little bit more elbow grease, but it does still produce a nice finish, as you're going to see here in just a little bit. So let's get rolling on this. Put some on the rag here. And you can see that's coming out already, getting a nice shine to it. Eventually I'm going to get myself a buffing wheel, and I can get a much nicer finish using a buffing wheel. I've got a drill attachment that I can use on my drill that works okay, but given the way this is with the carved top and the recessed control holes, I just want to go with the drill attachments. Don't do well in the recesses. So that's kind of why I'm going with the hand polish here. I'm going to do the top first, and then I'll do the back and sides. The trick is you don't want to let the polish dry out on there. You want to keep the polish moving because that's the abrasive that's in there to do the polishing. give the whole top a polish here for the first one on video, and then I'll, after it gets this first layer on it, then I'll probably go off camera to do the rest of it, because this is going to take a little while to do. All right, let's go ahead and buff this off and see what it looks like. And this will get even better once I hit it with the fine and then the swirl remover, because every little bit does a little bit more polishing to it. And as you can see, just with that, started to give a nice shine to it. But we're going to go ahead and do the rest of this off camera. So here we have it, all polished up. It came out really nice. I did have to redo the back. I didn't show it on camera, but I ended up doing a burn through on the polish on the finish right there. So I ended up sanding the whole back because it wouldn't blend in properly. So I completely resanded the back and reshot it. I'm happy with the finish. We're ready to move on to the next step. So the next thing I want to do on this is I want to go ahead and check the frets to make sure that everything's level. And if not, then I'll do a level crown and polish on the frets. The first step, of course, is to check and make sure that you've got the neck straight. I've got my slotted straight edge here, and I'm looking down the fretboard, and everything is straight. A good way to check that when you got your straight edge on it is you can shine a light on the back side of it, a bright light, and if you see any light between your notch straight edge and the fretboard, you know you need to make some adjustments. Of course, if the gap is here in the middle, then you've got too much relief in the neck and you need to straighten it. If the gap's at either end, of course, then you got too much back bow in the neck, and again, you've got to straighten it. I did straighten that off camera, so I do know it's straight. So the next thing we'd want to do is you just take your fret rocker, and I'm going to go through here and I'm going to check each one of my frets to see if I got any. A little bit there, a little bit there. I've already seated these pretty good, so I do know that I'll need that seating it isn't going to work. So this is going to need a level crown and polish. I can see it now. You can hear it rocking back and forth. All right, so we do know we have some high frets here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get ready to do the level crown and polish. The first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to tape off my fretboard, just so I don't get it all dirty. That is maple. It does have a finish on it, but I'd prefer to keep it as clean as possible, if possible. So now that I have the neck taped off, I suppose what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark the frets right across the top. This way I have a reference point for when I'm sanding, so I know when all the marker's gone off of all the frets, then I have everything level. Then I can go back and recrown. And now I'll just take my leveling beam. I don't use a lot of pressure here. I basically let the weight of the beam do the work. And I just want to follow the fretboard. I'm using 320 grit on this. So if you can see it, I've got shiny spots and spots now, but I've still got marker there, some marker there and there. So that's showing me that those frets are still a little bit lower, so the frets on either side of them are still higher. So we'll just continue on with the leveling. So from the 13th fret down, I still got a little bit of work to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my smaller sanding beam. That way I can concentrate just on this area. So there we have everything leveled. So let's go back through with the fret rocker just to double check. All right, we're level all the way across. And if I bring that up in there, you can probably see that all the mark on top of the frets is gone. There are a couple that are a little flatter than others. That's because they were the high ones. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up, get all the dust and everything off of there, and then we'll go through and get ready for the recrowning stage. So in preparation for recrowning, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and mark the frets again. And this is gonna allow me to know when I've got the fret crowned. Because what I'm going to do is right now that's a wide black stripe. As I'm doing my crowning, I'll go on each side of that fret to kind of keep everything symmetrical. And then I want to go until that line is like pencil lead thin. That lets me know that I've got the top of my fret and I've got my frets nice and crowned. And then I can go through and do the polish, the final polish on the frets. And what I've got is I'm just going to use a Z file for this. It's got a flat edge on it on one side so it doesn't do anything and it protects the fret. So I just make a few passes and I try and keep them level. And then I can just flip sides on the file. And what I do is I just do a couple passes on each side. That way I keep everything level and I bring that crown to the center of the fret, because that's the aim, is to have the crown come up to the center of the fret, not off to the side. Not further one way than the other. And I'm following the radius as well. There we go. That one's pretty much done and getting close to it. Don't know if you can see it or not, but that line is coming down in the center of that. So as you can see, this does take a little while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. And now that you've seen what I do get the crowning done, the recrowning, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this off camera, and then I'll bring you back when I'm done. All right, so I went through and did all the recrowning. So what I always do after that is I always go back over and I just check it again to make sure that I didn't change anything. I didn't take too much off one fret or the other. So I'm just going to go back through with the fret rocker. And everything is nice and level, recrowned. Now what we're going to go through is go through the polishing phase. So for the polishing phase on the frets, what I like to do is I'll first start off with some fret erasers. They have had a file on them, they've had sandpaper on them, so they are pretty coarse at the moment. There's a lot of scratches in it. So what I usually do is I've got the fret erasers. You can get them from many different places. These are the Crimson Guitar fret erasers. Basically it's like a rubber eraser with an abrasive in it. I'm going to start with medium, fine, and then I'll go up to super fine. And then I'm going to hit it with some micro mesh, and then I'll do a polish on it. But really straightforward. I just want to get the frets, and I'll go through the progressive stages of it. This is where you can put a little bit of effort into your fret ends as well, because this will take a little bit off of them. So you can actually start to do that round over on your fret ends if that's what you want. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just starting to take the file marks out of it, and that little bit of roughness right at the very crown where the sandpaper was used for the leveling. Nice thing is these conform right over to the top of the frets as well. It does a really good job. And what you'll see with these, you'll progressively see the scratches come out. These fretboard erasers are also good for doing your fretboard. You can clean it up because the abrasive in it is very light. So it's not going to damage your fretboard, but it's a good way to clean all the grime and grit off your fretboard when you go to do a recondition on your fretboard. But you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this off camera. I'll bring you back when I get ready to do the micro mesh. So I went over these with the fret erasers, went through all the way up to super fine. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over them with micro mesh. Starting out at 1500. And basically I just put it on the block because what I'm going to do is just go up and down the fretboard at the moment. And I'm just going to go through the grits. I'm tilting it a little bit to where I'm catching the edges of the frets as well, or the sides of the frets, as I go over them. And I'm just going to go progressively through the grits, starting with 1500 and going all the way up to 12,000. One of these micro mesh kits, you can get them on Amazon, fairly cheap. I think they're like $12 or $13, and it lasts for ages. I've done about 12 guitars with this one so far, and it's still got some life in it. So that's just with the micro mesh. All I'm going to be using here is some Meguiar's all metal polish. I'm going to put a little bit on the frets, and then I'm going to buff them out with the Dremel. Bring you up to where you can see one polished versus non-polished. Kind of gives you an idea. This one being polished, this one being not polished. You can see just the difference that makes. All right, the frets are all polished, so let's go ahead and get this tape off here, see what it looks like. Let's bring this in here so you can kind of get an idea of the frets. So there we have it. Frets are all nice and shiny, nice and polished, level crowned. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. I just want to say thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you did, please, if you like what I'm doing, click like, click subscribe. We've got a lot done on this guitar with the level crown and polish on the frets and the polish on the body. We're now ready for final assembly, but that's going to be in the next video. So I just want to say thank you very much for stopping by the channel, and take care.